Chapter 3 of The Jewel of Seven Stars. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Roger Moline. The Jewel of Seven Stars by Bram Stoker. Chapter 3 The Watchers. I was struck by the way the two young women looked at each other. I suppose I have been so much in the habit of weighing up in my own mind the personality of witnesses, and of forming judgment by their unconscious action and mode of bearing themselves, that the habit extends to my life outside as well as within the courthouse. At this moment of my life anything that interested Miss Trelawny interested me; and as she had been struck up by the newcomer, I instinctively weighed her up also. By comparison of the two, I seemed somehow to gain a new knowledge of Miss Trelawny. Certainly the two women made a good contrast. Miss Trelawny was of fine figure, dark, straight-featured. She had marvelous eyes, great, wide open, and as black and soft as velvet, with a mysterious depth. To look in them was like gazing at a black mirror such as Dr. Dee used in his wizard rites. I heard an old gentleman at the picnic, a great Oriental traveller, describe the effect of her eyes as looking at night at the great distant lamps of a mosque through the open door. The eyebrows were typical, finely arched and rich in long curling hair. They seemed like the proper architectural environment of the deep, splendid eyes. Her hair was black also, but was as fine as silk. Generally black hair is a type of animal strength, and seems as if some strong expression of the forces of a strong nature; but in this case there could be no such thought. There were refinement and high breeding; and though there was no suggestion of weakness, any sense of power there was rather spiritual than animal. The whole harmony of her being seemed complete. Carriage, figure, hair, eyes, the mobile, full mouth, whose scarlet lips and white teeth seemed to light up the lower part of the face, as the eyes did the upper. The wide sweep of the jaw from chin to ear, the long, fine fingers, the hand which seemed to move from the wrist as though it had a sentience of its own. All these perfections went to make up a personality that dominated either by its grace, its sweetness, its beauty, or its charm. Nurse Kennedy, on the other hand, was rather under than over a woman's average height. She was firm and thick-set, with full limbs and broad, strong, capable hands. Her color was in the general effect that of an autumn leaf. The yellow-brown hair was thick and long, and the golden-brown eyes sparkled from the freckled sunburnt skin. Her rosy cheeks gave a general idea of rich brown. The red lips and white teeth did not alter the color scheme, but only emphasized it. She had a snub nose; there was no possible doubt about it; but like such noses in general, it showed a nature generous, untiring, and full of good nature. Her broad white forehead, which even the freckles had spared, was full of forceful thought and reason. Dr. Winchester had on their journey from the hospital coached her in the necessary particulars, and without a word she took charge of the patient and set to work. Having examined the new-made bed and shaken the pillows, she spoke to the doctor, who gave instructions. Presently we all four, stepping together, lifted the unconscious man from the sofa. Early in the afternoon, when Sergeant Daw had returned, I called at my rooms in Jermyn Street, and sent out such clothes, books, and papers as I should be likely to want within a few days. Then I went on to keep my legal engagements. The court sat late that day, as an important case was ending. It was striking 6 as I drove in at the gate of the Kensington Palace Road. I found myself installed in a large room close to the sick chamber. That night we were not yet regularly organized for watching, so that the early part of the evening showed an unevenly balanced guard. Nurse Kennedy, who had been on duty all day, was lying down, as she had arranged to come on again by 12 o'clock. Dr. Winchester, who was dining in the house, remained in the room until dinner was announced, and went back at once when it was over. During dinner Mrs. Grant remained in the room, and with her Sergeant Daw, who wished to complete a minute examination which he had undertaken of everything in the room and near it. At 9 o'clock Miss Trelawny and I went in to relieve the Doctor. She had lain down for a few hours in the afternoon, so as to be refreshed for her work at night. She told me that she had determined that for this night at least she would sit up and watch. I did not try to dissuade her, for I knew that her mind was made up. Then and there I made up my mind that I would watch with her, unless, of course, I should see that she really did not wish it. I said nothing of my intentions for the present. We came in on tiptoe, so silently that the Doctor, who was bending over the bed, did not hear us, and seemed a little startled when suddenly looking up he saw our eyes upon him. I felt that the mystery of the whole thing was getting on his nerves, as it had already got on the nerves of some others of us. He was, I fancied, a little annoyed with himself for having been so startled, and at once began to talk in a hurried manner as though to get over our idea of his embarrassment. "I am really and absolutely at my wits' end to find any fit cause for this stupor. I have made again as accurate an examination as I know how, and I am satisfied that there is no injury to the brain; that is, no external injury. Indeed, all his vital organs seem unimpaired. I have given him, as you know, food several times, and it has manifestly done him good. His breathing is strong and regular, and his pulse is slower and stronger than it was this morning. I cannot find evidence of any known drug, and his unconsciousness does not resemble any of the many cases of hypnotic sleep which I saw in the Charcot Hospital in Paris. And as to these wounds—" He laid his finger gently on the bandaged wrist which lay outside the coverlet as he spoke. "I do not know what to make of them. They might have been made by a carding machine, but that supposition is untenable. It is within the bounds of possibility that they might have been made by a wild animal, if it had taken care to sharpen its claws. That, too, is, I take it, impossible. By the way, have you any strange pets here in the house? Anything of an exceptional kind, such as a tiger cat or anything out of the common?" Miss Trelawny smiled a sad smile which made my heart ache, as she made answer: "Oh, no! Father does not like animals about the house, unless they are dead and mummied." This was said with a touch of bitterness, or jealousy, I could hardly tell which. "Even my poor kitten was only allowed in the house on sufferance; and though he is the dearest and best conducted cat in the world, he is now on a sort of parole, and is not allowed into this room." As she was speaking, a faint rattling of the door handle was heard. Instantly Miss Trelawny's face brightened. She sprang up and went over to the door, saying as she went: "There he is! That is my Silvio! He stands on his hind legs and rattles the door handle when he wants to come into a room." She opened the door, speaking to the cat as though he were a baby. "Did him want his movver? Come then, but he must stay with her." She lifted the cat and came back with him in her arms. He was certainly a magnificent animal. A chinchilla grey Persian with long silky hair, a really lordly animal with a haughty bearing despite his gentleness, and with great paws which spread out as he placed them on the ground. Whilst